Hi everybody! Merry Christmas, Merry late Christmas, Happy late New Year. This is the first video I'm filming in 2025. I'm not gonna talk about how weird that year sounds, I'm just gonna get over the whole, I'm terrified of the passage of time thing. Today I'm gonna be sharing with you all the books that I got this Christmas, all the books I bought during Black Friday, all the books I bought during the Barnes& and Noble sale when the hardcovers were half off. I went crazy. And I'm not proud, but I'm gonna try not to buy books for a little while after this. We'll see how that goes. You have to hold me accountable. Anyway, let's just get into it. First, I'm gonna go over the Penguin Clothbound Classics that I got for Christmas. I don't really know what these books are about in particular. I kind of just wanted them because they were clothbound classics. I want to own them all, and my parents very nicely bought me 4 of them, so let's go into that. First is a book that I think everyone has heard of, and that is Moby Dick by Herman Melville. I mean, it's a whale. What else is there to say? So this is the first Penguin Clothbound classic. I love it. I love that there's little whales on it. I really want to read Moby Dick, I'm not gonna lie. So I want to. I'm glad I got this for Christmas. After that, we have The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Another book that I don't know anything about, but it's a Penguin Clothbound classic. Then we have The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This one I'm particularly excited about because I'm recently in my mystery thriller era, so I actually think this one would be quite fun to read. And I've never read anything about Sherlock Holmes at all, which seems like a shame because it's just so popular. I think it'll be fun. And then lastly, a classic I know absolutely nothing about, and that is Far From the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. A beautiful little book with beautiful little bees. Okay, so now that that's over, we can get into the books I actually know things about for the most part. I'm not gonna separate these into Christmas versus Black Friday versus Barnes& Noble sale. Just know that it wasn't just Christmas. I don't want you to think that my parents just give me 50 books for Christmas. So let's get into it. Let's start off with a really weird book to start off with, right? Because I think that'll make it fun. This is Forbidden Fruit, an anthropologist looks at incest by Maurice Godelier. Godelier, I don't know. Yeah, this is a book about incest. I don't know what drew me to this book. I did not ask for this one for Christmas because that'll be a weird one to ask my parents to buy me. I bought this myself. I bought this because Verso Books was having a sale. And if you don't know about Verso Books, they're actually a really great radical publishing company. I highly recommend looking into them. But they recently had some financial issues, so I wanted to support them, so I bought some books. This was one of them. I don't know why I'm interested in this, I'm just interested in it. One of my majors in undergrad was anthropology, so I'm always interested in that subject, and for some reason I wanted to read what an anthropologist thought about incest. I don't know, I can't explain myself. Then we have Bel Canto by Ann Patchett. This book, I believe, I don't want to read the back, I believe it follows a hostage situation, and you're following the point of view of the hostages. That just sounds so interesting to me. I've never read a book about that, and I've heard a lot of praise about this book and this author, so I really wanted to give her a shot, and that's it. Next, we've got Bad Gays by Hugh Lemmy and Ben Miller. This is a history of, bad gay people. It's pretty self-explanatory. A homosexual history, it says. Um, I don't know. Again, this is one that just sounded interesting. I think it won the Goodreads prize or was nominated for the Goodreads prize a couple years ago, and I've wanted to read it ever since. I mean, with this cover, how could you not want to pick it up? And with the name, it just caught my interest. I don't know. This next one is pretty funny. It's not funny because of the subject matter, let me say that. Tibet on Fire, Self-Immolations Against Chinese Rule by Tissering Wozer. This book is funny not because the subject matter, as I said, I want to make that very clear, but because my dad bought this for me for Christmas, and after I opened it, it wasn't on my list. So after I opened it, I was like, oh, look, why'd you get me this one? He's like, I don't know. He thought it was on my list. He has no memory of why he bought this. We checked online, and it was a book that he bought, so it wasn't like they accidentally sent it to him. So, I don't know what this says about me that my dad picked this book out for me. But I'm excited. I'm not excited because it's a sad subject. I will learn about the subject, and it's a very short book, so yeah, it should. I'm not gonna say fun, it's not gonna be fun. It should be interesting. Let's say that. Then we have Nobody's Ever Missing by Catherine Lacey. I picked this book out. This is one I bought on Black Friday. I picked this up because I loved Biography of X by this author so, so much. It was one of my favorite books of the year. Spoiler alert, because that video has not come out yet. But it was. It's gonna be on there. I loved the writing style. I loved the imagination behind the premise. I just loved everything about it, and I want to read everything this author has ever written. So I'm not sure what this one was about, but the cover is pretty, and I saw it in person, and I was so excited that I recognized the author, so I had to get it. No excuse. No excuse. This next one is also one that I put on my Christmas list primarily because of the cover, and that is Lamb by Matt Hill. From my understanding, this is like a sci-fi horror book. It follows this boy whose father did like an act of terrorism at his work or something like that, so him and his mother have to move away. And after they start to move away, his mother kind of starts to get weird and starts like fading from him. And weird stuff starts happening. That's the only idea of it I have. I love a weird book. I love the cover. I don't know what it is about this one, but I really want to read it. So I'm glad that I got it for Christmas. Then we've got a nonfiction, and that is Say Nothing, A True Story of Murder and Memory in Northern Ireland by Patrick Radden Keefe. This is a nonfiction book I've heard so much about. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's about the Troubles in Ireland, which I know nothing about, to be honest. But I've heard so many people praise this author and this book in particular, and I'm pretty sure it was also on like the 100 most notable books of the century from the New York Times. So that also makes me interested in it. I just heard so much about it and I want to read it myself. I also think I'll learn a lot. I'm interested in the subject, so I'm excited that I got this one for Christmas as well. I'm excited that I got all of these for Christmas. I do not need to be saying that every single time. I will try my best not to. Then we have one I picked out for myself, and that is Stoner by John Williams. I know nothing about this book. I'm not gonna lie and say that I do. I also don't want to read the back because I want to go into it blind. So I know that this book has been highly recommended by a lot of like lit fic girls on Instagram. And I feel like this is like another like cool girl book. Like this is the kind of book that a girl who reads a lot of classics reads. I don't know. I want to be like a lit fic cool girl classic reading girly, so I wanted to pick it up and see my thoughts on it. I haven't seen one person read this book and not love it. And it's an NYRB and I'm interested in that publishing company. So I bought it. I don't have anything else to say. Next, I have My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen. This book is about a girl who gets possessed, I think, by a demon. And I picked this book up because I've never read anything like that before. I don't think so, at least. Like, I'm trying to rack my memory and I can't think of anything like that. And particularly, that's the stuff that freaks me out the most in scary movies. Like, the ghost stuff scares me the most. I'm sorry, it's not a demon, it's just a ghost. But that's what scares me the most in scary movies. So I wanted to read a book like that because I don't really get scared by horror books at all, to be honest. So I wanted to see if this one would scare me. And it has a nice little cover. It just seems interesting. Then we have Mornings in Jen by Susan Applehawa. This book I wanted to read because I loved Against the Loveless World by this author. It was an amazing, amazing book by a Palestinian author. This book follows a family that had to flee during the Nakba, and it particularly follows the daughter and her older brother, who was just a baby at the time of the Nakba, was stolen by Israel. So it kind of follows this family's like struggles to survive in a refugee camp, as well as like their strength. That's all I know about it, and that's all I need to know about it. I'm so excited to go into this. After that, we have Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This is set in a small Irish town right before Christmas, and it follows a main character who sells coal, I believe, and he's like selling the coal to the church when he finds out a secret about the town or something like that. I don't know, there's a movie coming out with Cillian Murphy, or it's already out, and I really want to read it. And I also just really want to try Claire Keegan because I've heard so much about this author, but I've never read anything by her by myself. So, by myself. Why did I say it like that? I've never read anything by her. So, I want to try this out. Oh, the light is coming in. I don't know how to escape that. I'll just like hide up against my bookshelves. Could you imagine? And I filmed the whole video like this. You just have to deal with the light. I can't do anything about it right now. Anyway, the next book is My Husband by Maud Ventura. This is a French book about a lady who's obsessed with her husband, and she loves him so much, I guess. I guess she has to, right? She's obsessed with him. I'm trying to get out of the light and it's not working. See, if I step forward, it's just worse. So, anyway, and she's obsessed with her husband, and she reads into his every behavior, thinking that he's like trying to show that he doesn't love her anymore or something like that. And she's like constantly testing him. It's overall just a story about obsession, and I've heard a lot of great things about this book, so I really wanted to read it. Next, we have Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Horace. This is a coming of age story that follows a young girl in Ireland in the 90s, and she starts to have a crush on a girl in her class. And she's kind of torn between like wanting to be her true authentic self and also the pressures of her conservative community and the worry that she's not going to fit in. I've heard this book is beautiful. I heard that it uses a lot of like church imagery, which I'm a sucker for. So I really wanted to pick this one up. Okay, next, I don't know why I bought this. I was just in Barnes& Noble and I saw it on a table and I picked it up. And it's Penelopiad by Margaret Atwood. I do love Margaret Atwood. I think this is a retelling of the Odyssey by Penelope's perspective, something like that. I don't know. I also love Greek retellings, but I haven't read the Odyssey, so I feel like I need to read that before I can read this. Thoughts? I don't know. I'm sure I'm gonna love it though because I love Margaret Atwood, and it's like a feminist retelling, which you have to love. Then I also bought Coup de Grace by Sophia Arjram, something like that. This is a short novella that follows a man who's about to kill himself, but when he exits the subway to do that, he gets lost in like this labyrinth. And it just sounds really cool. And I also follow this author on Instagram and Twitter because she makes the most beautiful jewelry in the entire world. Like, it's inspired by like celestial bodies, just like Medusa ring. It's so gorgeous. I want it so bad, which is very off topic, but that's actually how I found out about the book because I was following her for those things instead. Highly, highly recommend checking out her jewelry. If I remember to, I will put a little picture on the screen somewhere of like one of the rings that I love. Ugh. Next, we have The Unmothers by Leslie J. Anderson. This is like a horror novel that follows a journalist arriving in a small town because there's a rumor that a horse has given birth to a healthy human baby boy. It sounds weird. I love a weird book. This one I'm not really sure why I picked up, but again, it's the Barnes& Noble curse where you just start picking books up, and that is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I actually did like The Grapes of Wrath. I used to hate it when I was younger because I had to read it in middle school for English. I hated it then, but I think that's just because my sisters hated it so much. I think I just wanted to be like them. I reread Grapes of Wrath a couple years ago and I did enjoy it, so I wanted to read more by him. And obviously this is like the book everyone thinks of when they think of John Steinbeck. I'm not quite sure what it was about. I thought it was about like a retelling of the story of Abel and Cain, but then someone else said it like follows the family of Abel and Cain down to the present day. So it has something to do with that. I don't really know. I'm gonna go into it blind because I did read online that you should go into it blind, and I will follow that advice. Then we have After Black Lives Matter by Cedric G. Johnson. This book talks about the Black Lives Matter movement, kind of why it failed to gain momentum and actually enact any real change. I think that dissection of the movement just sounds so interesting. And as someone who is like really involved in the 2020 protests, I want to know. I want to know what could have been done to make it better and more long lasting. And like if there's anything we can possibly do today to kind of resurrect it. I just think it sounds really interesting. Then we have Pet by Catherine Chidgey. I don't know how to say her last name either. This is about a young girl who wants to be like her teacher's pet, but then there's some kind of mystery in the school, and it explores like racial and social tensions. I think it also takes place in New Zealand, so that's cool. I don't know much about this, but I've seen a lot of people online talking about it, and I wanted it, so I put it on my Christmas list. Next, we've got There by Tommy Orange. This book follows, I believe, 12 Native Americans, and it kind of like they all come together at the end of this big powwow. And I believe the story kind of follows how they're all interconnected in some way. This book is said to be amazing, and I've wanted to pick it up for such a long time, but I just never did. I think because it's short, I was always like, oh, I'll get a bigger book. Because I do that sometimes, even though that's awful, because short books are also amazing. I really want to read this, and I really want to read Wandering Stars, which I believe is like a sequel or prequel. It's related to this book somehow, and that one came out last year, and I've heard nothing but praise for that one either, so I really wanted to be in the know with this series. Next, we've got a book that everyone has been reading and talking about for months, and I'm so late to the party, and that is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I know nothing about this book other than it deals with like chess, and it follows two men. And I think it's like her first book really centering on men, and a lot of people are saying that this is her best. And Sally Rooney is kind of like I love Normal People, but I didn't really love her other two books that much. They were just okay for the most part, even though I liked them, but I didn't like love them. It's kind of the vibe for those. So I'm really excited to get into this one and see what I think of it. I'm hoping I'm gonna love it. Then we have Hum by Helen Phillips. This book follows a woman who loses her job to AI, and then she goes through some type of surgery so that her face can't be recognized by facial recognition software. I don't know where it goes from there, but that just pulls me in right away. I will love reading some critiques of AI, especially because everyone's fucking using it. Like, just stop using it. It's so bad for the planet. And if you can't come up with like an email yourself, then you just need to work on that. Like, my mom is telling me the other day that she used ChatGPT to write an email, and I'm like, Betty, you can do better. You can write that yourself. And AI art, it's like, do we care about artists at all? Like, do we care about art itself? Like, just stop doing it. I have very strong opinions on the matter, so I'm excited to read this book that critiques AI. I hope it critiques AI. I'm just going into this thinking it does. I hope it does. After that, we have The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is, oh my god, my mic was stuck on a book. This is a Norse-inspired high fantasy that has dragons, and that's all I know. I've read The Faithful and the Fallen series by this author, and I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to read more by him. Then we have Sociopath, a memoir by Petrus Gagny, I want to say her name is, but I don't really know. Oh my god, my thing's falling out. This is a memoir about a sociopath. It's pretty self-explanatory, and I think it's also just interesting by itself. Like, I don't think I need to say much more. I don't really know much about sociopathy. Like, I only know the stereotypes and how it's used as a bad word. So I'm excited to learn more about it from someone who actually has that diagnosis. After that, we have Challenger, A True Story of Heroism and Disaster on the Edge of Space by Adam Higginbotham. This book talks about the Challenger disaster that happened in the 80s, I believe. I really liked, I can't say that because I didn't finish the book. I started reading Midnight in Chernobyl by this author, which is like right behind me right there. And I liked it. And it's actually the book that the miniseries Chernobyl was inspired by, and I loved that miniseries. And so I haven't read anything about this author, by this author, but I do feel like I already love him. And I think this is a really interesting topic to write about, and I want to learn more about it. Then we have The Will of the Many by James Islington. I don't know how to say his name either. I can't say anyone's names. There's nothing new here. This is a high fantasy series that absolutely everyone I've seen read this has fucking loved, and I want to be in the group. I want to know what it's like. I also want to love it, and I want to love it with everyone else. So what I know is that there's like the magic structure is that you can give your will to other people, and it kind of works in a hierarchy where you give your will to people like higher up than you. And it takes place in some like academy or something. I don't really know the details of the plot. I just know about the magic system and it sounds interesting. It has such a high rating on Goodreads. Like, I want to fucking read this and I want to love it. After that, we have The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. This book I wanted to read because it's Catherine Arden. Like, I love The Bear and the Nightingale series so much. If you don't know, that's like a fantasy series that's inspired by Russian folklore. It was beautiful. It's so beautiful. I loved it a lot. This is a new book by her that's historical fiction. It takes place during World War One, and it follows a sister and a brother. And the sister receives news that her brother has been lost and is presumed dead, but she doesn't believe him to be dead. So she joins the war effort as a medic, I believe, and is like there to uncover what happened to her brother. It sounds interesting. It's Catherine Arden, so I'm sure I'm gonna love it. And then the very last book of this little haul is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. This book I don't know much about. I know the vibes for the most part, which is an embarrassing sentence that I just said out loud. This is a horror novel that talks about like racism. And it's based off of like true events, and I believe I could be wrong about some of these details, so don't quote me. I believe it follows a black boy who is taken to this reformatory because he's accused of doing something wrong, and his sister is like trying to save him. That's all I know. It sounds so good though. I'm really in love with horror right now, and I really love books that explore social issues such as racism. So I'm just so excited to get into this and see what it says. And that's all. Those are all the books I bought recently. It is way too much. I can't deny that. Please shame me in the comments because I need it. I need to stop buying books. I recently counted every book that's on my TBR, and I'm too embarrassed to say the number. Maybe you can convince me to say it in the comments. Maybe because I was thinking about making a video that was like gonna be showing you every book on my TBR, and I don't know if I can because I have too many books on my TBR. Let me know if that's something you'd like to see down below though. Let me know what you got for Christmas. I would love to know. I think that's so fun. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and if so, where I should start. And I'll see you soon with another video. Goodbye!